Welcome to Beyond the Press Release, a production of Gorecom, in which we take the time to speak with small cap executives after they put out big news. And today is big news. Why? Who doesn't love free spin-out shares? And that's what should be coming from Manitou Gold sometime in the next 6 months. We'll talk about the details. But here to talk about is Richard Murphy. He's the CEO of Manitou that trades in Canada, the stock symbol MTU. And for our friends in the US, on the stock symbol MNTUF. For those new to the story, but you saw this great spin-out news headline trying to figure out, hey, who's Manitou? Here's what you need to know in about 60 seconds. They control 100% of the Goudreau Project in Northern Ontario, where they're accelerating exploration in search of Canada's next gold discovery and potentially a mine, okay? But on top of that, we've now got nickel added to the discovery list. And they're not doing it alone. They're supported by two majors, Alamos and O3 Mining. Collectively, they own about 20%, just under 20%, and just under 10% of the company, respectively. They've also got CEO, the chief operating officer from Alamos is a director. The chief financial officer from O3 Mining is a director, and it's unbelievable the kind of support the company has. Why? The area hosts two multi-million-ounce gold deposits. Alamos has got a 1.3 million ounce deposit there, and Argonaut Gold's got a 2.1 million ounce planned open pit gold mine and processing mill. So it's unbelievable. But if that's where the story ended, that would be great. But they now have a nickel discovery within that same land package, and are creating a whole new pubco to support nickel, cobalt, and PG discoveries without taking away from the gold focus. It's a win-win for everybody. Richard, welcome back, my friend. I know that was a mouthful.
Oh, thank you very much, George. My pleasure.
Hey, so you've announced, here's the headline: Manitou Gold announces intent to spin out nickel, cobalt, PG commodities. Big picture first. How big and how important is this for your shareholders?
Well, I think we've been undervalued. And I mean, any measure you use, valuation versus, the metrics by which our company should be fairly valued, things are out of whack. And I think we're drastically undervalued from the perspective of a recent land transaction along part of our property boundary, whereby a year and a half ago, Alamos came and bought for US 20 million a private equity landowner's position, much smaller than ours, important lands, but I think our portfolio is worth much more. That's already a premium to our current market cap, which is just under 15 million these days. So I think we're at a discount just to the pure land value of our gold assets. We have a separate entire project up in the Wabigoon belt near Dryden, Ontario. That we've got optioned to a company called Dryden Gold. Yep. And that's the same group and individuals who were behind Ely Gold Royalties, a very successful royalty company that was built up over a few years and sold last year for $200 million. So that's
300 million to be exact.
Yeah. So that's another valuation metric. We're a very, very large shareholder of Dryden Gold. We have additional payments coming in the door over the next 2.5 years. And specifically about $2 million worth of cash and stock per year for the next 3 payments. And now we've made a nickel discovery. So in our minds, we're going to keep our gold focus in Manitou as a parent company, both at Dryden option deal we have, where we a big owner of Dryden Gold, our Goudreau project, where we're adjacent to Alamos's the gold mine property, and in between that and Barrick's Renavi gold mine property. And without cutting up the property in any way, we're simply segregating out some specific commodities, as you mentioned, nickel, cobalt, platinum group metals. And we're going to put these into a pure nickel explorer. I think we're going to create an awful lot more value for our shareholders in a standalone nickel vehicle.
No doubt.
And I'm confident in this. It's not arm waving in any way. We look at our results to date. We look at what we can see on the ground in the geology. We've been working on this since we got our initial nickel assays. we have a clear analog out there in the market, and that analog is a company called Canada Nickel Company. That's a 200
Wow,
million.
it's a big comparison.
Yeah, it's a 200 million market cap company. They're much further along in terms of advancement than what we are. But at the same time, a few years ago when they got going, they had a market cap not so different than what I think we can be able to achieve in a pure nickel spin out relatively quickly. So I think this is an opportunity to get, again, our market valuation, which is out of whack, back into whack in a real short order here.
And look, doing a spin out is no easy thing. It takes a lot of work, a lot of effort. So for you to be going through all this effort, I mean, a lot of legalese, a lot of regulation, a lot of compliance, unbelievable. You're obviously very confident what you have there. So what do you think Manitou might have based on all the geophysical, geochem work you've done over the past 2 years and with the recent, nickel drill intersection?
Yeah, so let me try to illustrate a little bit of this for you on a map, George. So this map, we're simply looking at the company's land position in yellow up against us, and a very large amount of common property boundary here. In brown is the Island Gold Mine property of Alamos, and then further to the west along their western property boundary is Argonaut Gold's Magino pit development. So we have, gold properties totaling 366 square kilometers. We decided over the last year and a half, we really focused on this Baltimore Deformation Zone, which we feel very strongly is a fault offset continuation of the Goudreau-Lochalsh Deformation Zone. And so we've done over the past year and a half, literally millions of dollars worth of geophysics. So detailed ground magnetics, very deep penetrating and detailed IP surveys over that western 10 kilometers of the Baltimore Deformation Zone, comprehensive geophysical surveys, prospecting. So we have a fantastic data set here. And we've outlined, as part of this work in targeting gold, we outlined areas where there are several ultramafic intrusions. And the drilling.
And what does that mean for the layman term, by the way, just to make sure?
These ultramafic intrusions, being intrusive means it's not a volcanic rock. It never got extruded to surface and became a magma flow. It was trapped within the crust of the earth and cooled in place. But the important thing about ultramafic rocks, they come from below the crust. They come from the mantle. So when you see trends of ultramafic rocks, that's telling you that the fault structures along which they occur, and this is just another map where I'm illustrating, and the background is magnetics. So all these green to purple colors you see here are different magnetic bodies, and the real important ones with respect to nickel are these deep purple bodies. They're pretty discrete, and you notice they seem to be occurring along these faults in the heavy black lines. That tells us these faults were really deep. They went right through the crust down into the mantle. They allowed these intrusive bodies to come up from very deep. And the reason they're important, these deep-seated ones, is they're loaded with metals like cobalt, nickel, platinum, palladium. And in the course of our gold exploration, we got a 50-meter piece of one of these intrusive bodies. And lo and behold, that was our discovery hole, resulted in 49 meters at 0.25% nickel. There's some cobalt credits in there. George,
wait, that number, again, for people who are watching, relatively speaking, how good of a number is that compared to, even Canada Nickel or other peers that you might stack this up against?
Well, another positive alignment between this project and their Crawford project, which is their most advanced. So their total nickel resource, the nickel content and grade is 0.25%, exactly the same as what we intersected over almost 50 meters in that discovery hole. So, we think that's very, very important. It's a single intersection. We've since we received that, we've done a lot of work to prove that this, in fact, this nickel is in a mineral that would be potentially economic. It's not locked up in sub-economic minerals that you can't extract the nickel from. It's actually dominantly so far, it's in a iron nickel alloy. So we're not thinking about, smelting sulfides and dirty sort of tailing situations. In fact, this sort of rock, these ultramafic rocks, they well, you don't have a lot of sulfur in them, so you're not generating acid from your waste rock or your tailings. They actually have the capacity to actively bind with CO2, and actually there's opportunity to realize carbon sequestration credits here, and that's exactly, again, what our peers at Canada Nickel are looking at now. They've got some documentation out in the public domain about how they intend to do that and realize real economic gains for their project. So, we have our discovery hole in one of these intrusions where the drill's on its way in there as we speak.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you're not wasting any time. You're getting right to work, right?
Absolutely. Like I said, the drill's going back in there. We've got 1,000 meters lined up. So where we got a 50-meter intersection on the south margin of one of these intrusions, we're gonna turn the drill around and drill almost a 400-meter hole across that whole intrusion in an effort to, potentially get an intersection of hundreds of meters in length. And we'll wait for the lab to deliver the assays. And then we're going to drill a couple holes right across this very large intrusion just to the west. This is one where we have the benefit of a little bit of outcrop exposure, and the guys have been able to visit it. So we're very confident it's going to be the right host rocks. And again, these two new holes in this never before drilled ultramafic body, they're going to have the potential for literally hundreds of meters of core length of potential nickel mineralization.
And how long do you think until you start getting results back? Because I know the labs are backed up. There are a lot of companies right now having problems with getting assays back. Ballpark, I'm not putting you to a date, obviously, but when do you think shareholders might actually get a taste of what's there?
Well, this, I just mentioned 3 holes. I'm confident we're going to have the first hole completed, logged, cut in half, and delivered to the lab by the end of the month. And equally confident that within the month of September, we should have one of 3 holes returned already. And I think by sort of mid-October, we'll have all 3. So in sum, our goal here is to have samples from our first discovery hole, which are already in hand and publicized, combined with grab samples from across this part of their property, across several of these other ultramafic bodies that we now
tell us what we're looking at there.
Yeah, so if you pay attention to the scale bar, 4 kilometers across, depending on the size of your screen, maybe a couple inches. But we're looking at ultramafic bodies spanning an area of about 30 kilometers minimum. Numerous bodies. Our discovery hole was down in sort of the southwest part here, where we tagged just the edge of one of these intrusions. So we'll have 3 new holes down in a couple of these intrusions. But the other thing we're going to build into this is ground truthing a lot of these other, what we believe to be ultramafic intrusions. Those are currently being proven up as our field team is investigating these that are exposed. And we're also taking grab samples when possible. So that's really going to augment, the drilling, the discovery hole, the next 3 holes we're drilling down in the southwest part here. If we can combine those results with similar or even better results on a lot of these intrusions across the property, it's going to be wide open in terms of potential. And I think that, sophisticated investors are going to see that this thing can get very, very large very quickly.
And I presume, given the fact that you've got both Alamos and O3 as both shareholders and board members, you've kind of got their support. If I don't want to say blessing, but you've definitely got their support for the spin out. So it's not just Richard, and maybe a couple of guys, you're talking about some great partners here who have obviously agreed with the decision.
Yeah, we have strong board presence from both these strategic shareholder companies. And obviously we share our strategy and decision-making process with our board. So we showed them not only the technical merits of this, we got a lot of legal and tax advice on the structure. And, we had a board meeting shortly before putting that news out Wednesday this week. And, our board was unanimously in favor of it. And they saw this as being a good opportunity to create a brand new vehicle. It doesn't cost shareholders a thing. And, you can see the writing on the wall that it's likely to be a tremendous value proposition.
Wow. Okay. I love the confidence. So on that point, let's talk about the mechanics now. So for the shareholders out there who are watching saying, okay, how long will it take? Ballpark, what is the ETA to go through this process? And maybe a couple of steps, what do you got to do? And then have you determined yet what the pro rata? So if I own, for every share of Manitou Gold that I own, do you guys have a number yet as to the pro rata or ballpark what that pro rata might be of Western Nickel Corp?
Yes, good question. So on the face of it, first thing you said, what's the indicative timeline? I think it's realistic that we're going to have Western Nickel Corp up and running as a publicly traded entity in advance of year end. There are several steps.
4 or 5 months out.
That's right. Several steps we're going to have to go through. Some of the timing, is beyond our control. One item, for example, is review and approval by the venture exchange. As an example, that's a timeline that we can't contain or control. But that being said, we're going to have the things in place, and we're very, very comfortable with the plan is target for year end to be up and running in advance of that. So as an example, when it comes to the mechanics, if you owned, let's say you owned 1 million shares, in our release, we talk about the company creating new shares for delivery to shareholders of Manitou Gold for no additional consideration. So this isn't going to cost anybody a penny. We also mentioned that Manitou might keep up to 19.9% of Western Nickel shares in hand, and that'll be a strategic ownership position. So suppose George owns 1 million shares. Manitou's keeping almost 20% back. So you're going to receive 800,000 shares of Western Nickel Corp.
Wow.
For the 1 million Manitou that you own, free and clear. Those will be diluted down in your equity in the new company. Western Nickel obviously is going to have to get financed.
But you're pretty confident. You're pretty confident you're going to be able to get that financing as well.
We are pretty confident. I think the nickel market specifically has got a lot of interest these days. I mean, a lot of the marketplace is in pretty poor shape. And again, this is one of the reasons that actually played an important factor in our thought process and decision-making process is, the sort of money we're looking to raise here. I'm not sure that you could do it in a gold junior, whereas a pure nickel opportunity, we think that we're actually quite confident that we can go out and successfully raise the money to hit the ground running.
And your level of confidence for people at home who are not as familiar, I mean, we've obviously seen this kind of transaction a number of times, but high degree of confidence that you shouldn't run into problems, never a guarantee, but this is pretty standard, right? You just got to go through all the steps to spin it out. But any concerns that shareholders should have or risk associated with the spin out not happening?
No, I don't think so. I mean, Manitou obviously is a listed publicly traded company. We're in compliance with everything. So if we create a mirror of our existing shareholder list and, get special sort of financials made, we've never been late for any reporting or anything else. I mean, we actually run our company not in an expensive way, but we do it pretty thoroughly. We've never been offside with any sort of reporting or being asked to recall press releases, et cetera. We
Right.
kept our nose pretty clean. So I think from a regulatory perspective, we're going to get things into the pipeline. And again, we've got the best tax and legal advice on this. So I'm quite confident that we're going to be able to do it in an efficient manner. We're going to proceed with it. I mean, we are drilling holes right now. There's absolutely no guarantee that we're going to get these hundreds of meters that come back, at the same grades that were experienced in the first hole. So there is an element of exploration risk there, but at the same time, the areas we're drilling, we know that we're going to be intersecting the target rocks. It's just a matter of, is the nickel going to be there? And we're pretty confident, and from our work to date, that they are going to be mineralized with nickel.
What's management going to look like for Western Nickel, Richard? Typically, sometimes what you see happen, these spinouts, is the management team from the original company, Manitou, in this case, Manitou, and the board, all or a substantial portion or meaningful portion will also, run and direct the spinout company. Do you see that happening with Western Nickel, or are you going to go out and find nickel specific people maybe to get more involved on the operating and board side?
So for the first formative days of Western Nickel Corp, I think our group, our team at the board level and the management level would be sort of, let's say, not entirely running Western Nickel Corp, but substantially. There will be a lot of overlap. And one of the key reasons there is we're not segregating out any lands out of Manitou Gold.
Right.
We're separating out commodities. So we're literally
interesting. I've never seen that before. Now that you mentioned that, that's right. Usually it's this chunk of land is now being taken out and put into a new co, but that's not the case here.
That's correct. So, Manitou's land portfolio is 366 square kilometers. The neat thing about this is, those ultramafic intrusions I showed you in the map, the nickel is inside of those, not outside. And gold deposits we're looking for, we don't expect to see them inside these intrusions either. The gold's going to be on the outside of them. So I think there's tons of room to explore here with, friendly neighbors. There's a lot of synergies, actually. We don't have to keep two sets of roads open. Like all the logistics a junior mining company has on a project, those are going to be divided by two. So there's a lot of savings, and the fact that we already have guys on the ground, it doesn't make sense to go hire other guys to come in. As long as our team has the capacity, we'll run it. But to tell you the truth, George, if we find the right candidate to come in, somebody with deep knowledge of the nickel markets, international reach, he knows who the buyers are. When it comes to starting to put resources together and doing the financial evaluation and putting the metrics on the project, if we can find the right individual to come in, it would be, I think, a no-brainer if we can hire a rock star to come in and turn something that, we hopefully get some traction and create some real value fast. But if we find the right guy to turn it into a tremendous amount of value, we wouldn't hesitate to bring him in. Well,
given the given the location, given the ownership structure, the board structure, everything about Manitou, and just by owning shares in Alamos, in Manitou, your strategic shareholders are going to have a lot of shares in Western Nickel. So I think it will almost be a no-brainer to be able to attract some pretty good talent when you put the land package, the support, shareholders, directors all together. Hey, if I was a nickel rock star, I'd be submitting my application. Yeah, well, we're accepting those applications. So last question for you, Richard, more of a personal question, but as CEO of Manitou, how excited or happy, how big of a milestone is this for you, given the you just announced a couple of days ago, everyone's on vacation August, and here you are coming out with milestone news. How happy are you with how this transpired? Well, I can put it into context. It was about 6 years ago we started assembling our Goudreau project. The first property we bought was 4 patented mining claims right up adjacent to the Klein mine system. That was the first bit. And then, through
end of 2019, we'd assembled almost at, 300 and I guess at the time about 330 square kilometers at 366 now. That was all the formative time. It was pretty exciting being able to put it all together. The last couple of years, we've done an awful lot of geotechnical work, as I mentioned earlier. And we haven't had that home run. We have 2 tremendous gold zones we've drilled and identified, the Stover zone and the Bald Eagle Gold Zone. Both of those are well covered in our press releases over the past year. But now I think we've sunk our teeth into something that you can see how it can become very large, very fast. And to cut to the chase of your question here, I'm more excited today than I have been since day one conceptualizing this whole project. I think that we're going to create value for Manitou Gold shareholders, even if they do nothing and just sit back and don't look at their statements or anything else. By the time their Western Nickel Corp shares are up in free trading, they're going to realize a whole lot of value that they're getting for free. I think this is a breakthrough. It's not the way we thought we'd be creating value. We thought it'd be through gold discovery at this stage, but it looks like it's nickel discovery. And we understand nickel. Like personally, I've started and run successfully a nickel junior through discovery, resource definition, conversion to reserves actually, and negotiated with Chinese, negotiated with Hunter Dickinson Company. And ultimately, we had a competitive bidding process for that nickel company. So I understand the space pretty well.
Which company was that, by the way?
It's called Independent Nickel Corp.
Okay.
Yeah. So I have the personal experience in nickel. I know a lot of the players, and we know the space. We know the nickel geology. We have a great understanding of it. So this is something we're not shy about or unsure about the next steps. Actually, this is a pretty clear roadmap to value creation.
Well, Richard, it's the middle of summer. When I saw this press release, I was on vacation, and it just popped up on my WhatsApp and said, "Hey, take a look at this from Manitou." I was like, I didn't see this coming. I don't think anybody saw it coming. So, on behalf of all the shareholders, hey, thank you for this great news, and congratulations to you, the team, everybody on a fantastic piece of news, and can't wait to start talking to you in September when you expect some of these results to come back, and then we're gonna have a whole lot of reasons to keep talking right through to the end of the year when the spinout takes place. But for today, for this moment, congratulations to you and the team, Richard.
Well, thank you very much. And I think it's time we deliver real value for our shareholders. So that's what we're doing. We're gonna deliver something totally unexpected to all our current shareholders, and those shareholders that get in. Ultimately, there's going to be a cutoff day down the road here. We call it a record date, and everybody that owns Manitou shares before that day is going to get their free shares of Western Nickel.
Hey guys, you heard it here. It's almost a 1-for-1. Almost a 1-for-1. It's on 0.8. If I got the math, it's pretty much going to be a 0.8 for 1. That you couldn't get a better gift in the middle of the summer. So if you're an existing shareholder, great. If you want to add more, well, you got all the reason to now. It's almost a 2-for-1 sale. So Richard, thanks, man. I can't wait to have you back.
Thanks again, George. Always a pleasure.
To everybody at home, you've been watching or you've been listening by podcast on Spotify, Google, Apple, your favorite podcast platform. To Richard Murphy, CEO of Manitou Gold, trades in Canada under MTU. For friends in the US, MNTUF. For those new to the story, in case you saw the great spinout news and want to know more, get the company's profile page on Agoracom. We've got it all neatly laid out for you, so you have a great overview of the company, of the Goudreau project, and now you've heard even more about what's going on inside of there. And then once you've got that under your belt, head right over to the Manitou website, do your deep dive due diligence. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day. See you next time. Hey guys, the video's over, but don't forget to help your company by liking it and even leaving a comment below. And then don't forget to help yourself by subscribing to our YouTube channel so you never miss another great Agoracom small cap video.